the arena. Are you going to miss everyone? Roger!
Yeah. This moment where the whole crowd, chants your name or is so happy to see you, it really is what you then work for or go into rehab for or do surgeries for. It's true.
Why you work so hard.
Absolutely magnificent.
In more than 1,500 matches over 24 years, Roger Federer gave his heart, soul, and body to the game he loves, making the decision to retire not easy.
It seemed like even as recently as Wimbledon, you were still holding out some hope that you could return.
I was already very unsure if I should show up at Wimbledon because I was hurt and having not played for a year, so I didn't know if I was supposed to be there. And when I spoke on the court, I said, I hope I see you all next year playing. And I really meant that because I really still have belief that I was going to make it. A couple of weeks later, I really felt the knee's no good. I did a scan. It wasn't where I wanted it to be.
So Federer took some much-needed time off from rehab with his wife Mirka and 4 children to reflect.
When I came back from vacation, I could really feel the feeling growing in me that I don't think I can make it back. I could feel very quickly like it's done.
Is it one of those things where they say sometimes there's the stages of grief? Did you feel all those feelings?
Yes, all of it, and also the ones where I don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to think about it, don't talk to me about it. I went through a lot of sadness and emotional moments where just, how you start thinking about everything you're going to miss. And then you just think, oh my God, my life's going to be miserable after. And then you realize, no, actually, we're going to have more time, so we're going to do all these amazing things now, so it's going to be great.
Unretiring is a thing now.
I know.
Tom Brady, now Serena seems to be wavering a little. You're done.
No, I am definitely done. I know that, yeah.
The end of an era. For decades, Federer's on-court acrobatics, and did that just happen? Moments have thrilled legions wherever he went.
What has it meant to you to have these fans who are so devoted and so devout and rooting for you all over the world, like every match was a home game for Roger Federer?
How do you know? How do you know they're like that?
I don't know. I might be one of them. You might have heard.
No, but that's like my number one concern, and is them not being able to spend more time with them.
Out of nowhere, Federer turns it up to 11.
Fed fans were faithful because he was great, but also good, showing uncommon grace. A far cry from this Roger.
Everyone marvels that your parents raised you. They encouraged your tennis, but they didn't put a ton of pressure on you. How did they pull that off?
I guess they had a good balance, and I must have also loved the game. They just didn't like it when he would go on weekends for tennis tournaments and I would behave like a brat on the court and shout and scream and commentate and throw rackets and be unprofessional and not having my drinks ready or whatever it was.
People can't believe this about you because you're like Spock. You're cool under pressure.
My whole generation of friends, we were all the same. We were all insanely crazy at the time.
It's funny because a lot of people do think like your generation is Djokovic and Nadal and Federer, but your generation is also Agassi and Sampras and Andy Roddick, which speaks to your longevity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess I was also a little bit the bridge, between the older generation and then this generation that we see now, the new generation even coming up with Ruud and Alcaraz and everybody. So I'm very proud of that fact that I was able to play for this long. I do miss that other generation of the Sampras and Agassis, and then obviously the Roddicks, the Safins, the Hewitts, the Ferreros, Alcaraz's coach now. Those were almost my favorite years. Of course, then it was the family years, but those beginning years were just insane, being able to share the locker rooms with my heroes and idols, and it was like a kid in a candy shop.
You and Rafa have been fierce rivals on the court, but astonishingly, you have become friends, genuine friends. How does a rivalry become a friendship like that?
I think through respect, and I think also his family is wonderful, and I think both families respect each other a lot. My parents, his parents, both teams. Yes, it got heated and it was intense in certain moments. Naturally, you get a little bit agitated sometimes at each other, but I think overall, always me and Rafa, we were always able to keep a cool head throughout. So Rafa, it's just wonderful that after everything that we've gone through, we're able to actually have quite a normal relationship, which is very, very nice.
Oh, it's exquisite feel from Federer.
You had those years of meteoric success. You also then had some wilderness years where you were out there, but there were years that passed between Grand Slam titles. Did you ever want to give up in those moments? Did you have a low point at that time?
I mean, look, funny enough, so I have twin girls, as you know, Mila and Charlene. They were born in 2009, just after I became, I think I was world #1. The girls were born, and from that moment on, 2010 and 11, I didn't win any slam. I remember changing diapers, bathing the girls, just being a dad. But then when the boys were born, things really, that rocked the boat, obviously, because going on the road with 4 kids every single week, was hard, to say the least. And from being maybe the dominator, I became the challenger, and I liked that role as well. I actually really stayed hungry throughout.
Not all professional athletes would prioritize their family and say, we're all going on the road together.
Oh, that was the only way. I said, I never would I go on the road without my kids, and then I'd rather retire. Then I would have had to retire 10 years ago.
If it were just about love of the game, Federer would never retire.
Oh, wonderful tennis.
All these years later, he seems as thrilled and delighted by tennis as that young ball boy from Basel, Switzerland he once was.
It's in. No, it's not.
There's a story that when you beat Andre Agassi, someone came up to him and said, oh, you'll get him next time. And Agassi said, no. He changed the game.
Okay. Yeah, he's been a wonderful guy.
Do you think you did? Do you feel that legacy?
I hope I was part of it. I feel like we pushed tennis into the right direction, and I think I did it my way. I always stay true to myself, and people always, it seemed like, loved watching me play, which is, I guess, the ultimate compliment.
We did.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Appreciate Savannah.
Wow.
I know.
That was extraordinary.
Our whole crew was just, they're like, oh, now we get the obsession. He is the kindest, most generous person with his time and with all of our folks there. And, it is emotional for him because he loves tennis. And if not for that darn knee, I think he'd be playing till he was 50.
And to watch his evolution, that you spotlighted him as kind of a hothead to a professional, to a dad, when that line about I might have chosen retirement.
Yeah.
If my kids didn't come along.
Well, it's interesting because some of the tennis analysts would say, like, well, gosh, he's got all these kids, and so maybe that's why he didn't win a Grand Slam for 5 years, and he could have had a few more titles. And he doesn't look at it that way. He's like, oh no, if my kids weren't with me, I would have been out at this game a long time ago.
Well, you're a lot in the piece. That he wasn't just great, he was good. That's one thing I've always enjoyed about him. Not just the longevity, not just 24 years at that level. The classy, scandal-free, played the game the right way for a long time.
I know. Well, you know what? The legend, the reality lived up to the legend.
Expand those generations. The bridge.
And he loves tennis, and he said, tennis, I will never leave you. So I think I asked him, would you be a TV commentator? And he was like, maybe a little. I don't know if I'd be any good at it. He'd love to coach, but then you're on the road again. But for Federer freaks such as myself, I asked if any of the kids had potential. He said they all played. He said there was one, I think it's one of the boys, that maybe could do it. But Roger's like, he's got to get his act together though, if he wants to. So we shall see.
Really cool.
Perhaps there'll be another generation of Federer.
Wow.
That was a good conversation.
Beautiful. All right. Mr. Roker, how about a check of the weather?
And then Vail could obsess about him. And the generations.
It just goes on and on.
Oh my